name is Nicole Miller. I am principal consultant of M&M Consulting. I do marketing communications work. I also wear a few different hats. I live in Newark, New Jersey, and here in Newark, I am a member of the Newark Environmental Commission and chair of the Newark Green Team. Those are both volunteer positions where we advise the city, the mayor, the council, the Office of Sustainability on environmental issues from a resident perspective. And with the Green Team, we do a lot of sort of in-town activities and collaborations with different community groups and resident groups, and with the city government as well. We host Greenfest Newark and some other things. I'm also co-chair of Newark DIG, doing infrastructure green, which is focused on stormwater management here in the city. And statewide, I also work in water and energy. So I'm co-chair of the Jersey Waterworks Steering Committee, where we work on improving New Jersey's aging water infrastructure. I'm also vice chair of New Jersey Progressive Equitable Energy Coalition, NJPEEC, where we focus on making sure that our clean energy transition is happening through an equitable lens. And I'm also coalition members for Clean Energy Action Now, focused on building decarbonization and clean energy jobs, New Jersey, which is of course focused on clean energy jobs here in New Jersey. I have a master's degree in book publishing, so this is a bit of a deviation. My undergrad is from the University of Washington, and I wanted to work in book publishing, so I moved back here and went to school in New York, in New York. I went to Pace University, and I got a Master of Science in book publishing. And I worked in book publishing for the better part of a decade. And at the same time, I was growing my interest and concern for sustainability issues, clean energy issues. And in my time in book publishing, I worked as a publicist. And so I did marketing work and book marketing and publicity in that field. And the more I got to know sustainability, the more I was firmly convinced that sustainability and clean energy needed better PR. They were doing a bad job of communicating the messages to the people. The urgency, communicating our true ability to maintain our lifestyle as we've come to expect it, as well as to make sure that the people and the other species on this planet that we're affecting were not being just sort of overrun in a mad dash. So I was like, okay, let me throw my hat in the ring. But I didn't live in California, I lived in New Jersey. So I started a business and I worked with small business clients, government clients, et cetera. And so now I'm able to do a lot more in the field of sustainability specifically, but it was a growing process. I had to grow with New Jersey into a focus and ability to support myself in this field. Truthfully, I've been interested in sustainability and conservation type issues since I was a child, actually. When I was, I want to say in like the 6th grade or something like that, we had somebody come to class and he had like a bucket and a jug of water and a toothbrush in his hand. And he just poured out water for 2 minutes. And then he picked up like another gallon or whatever and poured it out for 2 minutes. And he was like, every time you brush your teeth for 2 minutes and you just leave the water running, you're wasting this much clean water. And it blew my mind. I was like, I had never thought about that. And so from that moment, from the 6th grade on, it literally annoys me to have the water running. And so from then I started thinking more about our place on the earth, our sovereignty, if you will, on the earth, and the dominion that we've shown towards the earth, and that lack of care. Just because you can control something doesn't mean that you don't have to take good care of it. And so the more I got to know the issues and the true ramifications of the consequences of our civilization over the last 150 years, the more firmly convinced I became that this was the energy that I needed to put into the world, was to focus on this. a lot. I feel like we've had some really good positive wins. Unfortunately, I live in a real sort of, you have to gird your loins kind of every day to get up and go to work because it can be kind of defeating sometimes to work in sustainability, to work in clean energy, because there's so much to do. But the more I can see people becoming interested, really rallying together, the more hope I have for us, right? For us. I don't fear for the earth. The earth is very strong and resilient. It'll be fine. But I do fear for us. And so last year, for example, the Green Team, we hosted, as I mentioned, Green Fest Newark. And can I tell you, there were like 12 weeks with no rain. And this one day, it torrentially poured down. It was like a tsunami of just rain. And so we had to move indoors. And it was so fun. There were so many vendors and people who came out in the rain, who were still interested in learning about sustainable living, about clean energy technology. We had wind sponsors who came out to talk about the offshore wind projects, and electric vehicle sponsors to talk about electric vehicles and how you could switch to clean energy, the air quality concern, indoor air quality. There was so much. And I was just walking around. I was trying not to let the rain get to me, but it felt really good to be among that energy and to know that we could be spreading that energy out and just having an exponential effect. One thing that it took me, I have high expectations for myself and the people around me. And so it took me much too long to have it's not the client is always right kind of mentality, but it's the client gets what the client wants, whether or not I agree. So I'm an expert, the clients pay, but they don't have to accept my expertise. And so sometimes they will choose something that isn't necessarily what I would have chosen. And I have to be okay with that. Not just like roll my eyes and suck my teeth about it, but like really be okay with it. And understand that people do things for a myriad of reasons, et cetera. And so working with clients in this realm, understanding that marketing and publicity, all these things can be rather subjective. They take a fair amount of energy, but they're all sort of like based on a vibe and a zeitgeist. So sometimes as the content creator, you do have to take a little bit of a step back and let the client's wishes be paramount. And that can be hard to do when you're kind of a perfectionist. To be able to get involved either in communications work, which is very gratifying. I love the dynamism of it, that no day is the exact same. It's exactly what I need. I'm not one who's okay with monotony. And so for the communications work, I would highly suggest that anyone interested do communications work under a professional, whether in whatever field. So if you can find someone, you're interested in fashion, do fashion communication. And I'm not talking about journalism. It's not the same thing. It's sort of the other side of journalism, but there's a lot of nuance there. There's a way to craft messages. There's a way to reach out to contacts to build a network. And those are the kinds of lessons that we learn working for someone else. And then from there, you can kind of decide what it is that you want to do. There's a lot of different paths and avenues that people can take. Having communications and marketing background, there's a whole host of opportunities. And with regard to sustainability, truthfully, I'm one of those self-taught kind of people. I get interested in a particular topic and I kind of dive in. YouTube is I call it the repository of all human civilization, both good and bad. And so you can find a lot of really great information on YouTube, and just the internet in general. You do have to protect yourself, of course, online and guard the things that are going in your mind, get second and third opinions on things, but also be very willing to be flexible in your thinking and what those firm hills that you know, right? Like, what do you know? That can be willing for what you know to change tomorrow. Because you have gotten more information, you've gotten more data, you've gotten more facts, and also the nuance of how things affect different communities. So I live in Newark, it's an environmental justice community, and so all the people talking about electric vehicles, all these things, EVs will not save us. There's a whole car culture and lifestyle component, there's affordability concerns, there's connectivity concerns, there's a lot of nuance there. And so diving in, becoming fully immersed in different topics on your own time, right? Like, you could be doom scrolling, or you could be, watching a video about how land use has affected our lifestyles over the last, how land use policy has affected our lifestyles over the last 60 years. Both interesting. Both interesting things. And one is edifying to you and potentially to your career, and one is just going to suck away 2 hours of your life. Give yourself a timer. You know you're going to do it. Yeah. Set an alarm. You get 15 minutes. I get 15 minutes on TikTok. Okay, fine. But I listen to climate related blogs from comedians. It doesn't have to be boring. It could be fun, right? And if you think you're getting bored, move to a new topic. There's a lot, right? We're talking about land use, talking about water, how water flows, impervious surface, talking about energy, interconnectivity, grid modification, EVs, electrification, decarbonization. What does that even mean? Wind turbines, are the whales really in harm? No, they're not. But find out. If you're curious, find out. There's always a way in. Every community, from a very urban community like Newark, we're 20 minutes from New York City, to a rural community in the Midwest, there's always a group that's out there doing some kind of conservation or sustainability work. So at the city level, there might be a green team or an environmental commission that you can just kind of join. Ours are online, so people can just join the Newark Green Team. They can just show up. We had, I don't know how many people, some number of people there were a bunch of new people on our Green Team call yesterday, and they had heard about it from somebody else who had heard about it. So they can just pop in. It's a little more difficult to get local information nowadays. We don't use the newspaper the way that we used to, but there are local outlets like Tap Into and Patch where you can find out different things that are happening in your local area. But also it depends on the age that you are. If you're a student, there might be student groups, especially college-age students. There's a fair amount of activism for college-age students, and there's interest in K through 12 students to take on more of these concerns. For working people, it can be difficult to find the time and the energy, right? Like, you're working all day and then you come home and you're like, oh, now I got to find out about greenhouse gases. That can be difficult as well. But there are sort of passive ways to learn more and to ask questions. Again, online, there's various shows and commentators who are focused on that kind of thing. So there's a few different ways in which people can get involved, from your block association to, on the local level, and your local green team for your municipality, to maybe a state organization. There's national organizations like the Sierra Club and NRDC, the League of Conservation Voters, which is a national organization. There are lots of different ways where people can plug in, even in a small way. Maybe sign up for an email newsletter, and you might just look down the list of events that they should send you in an email newsletter and say, hey, that's not far from me. Maybe I'll go check it out. Go to a rally or go to a sustainable green fair or something like that, and just start making those connections for yourself at a pace that feels right for you. I will say that this can be trying work. It can be frustrating, especially once you get into the push and pull between what could happen, what should happen, and what isn't happening. And so it's important to remember why you're interested, why you're doing this, what your focus is. As I mentioned, I have 3 children, I have family here, I have people that I'm highly concerned about. And I also try to get out and be in the world and understand my connection to it. And I encourage people to do the same.